senior military officers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is a great honor and privilege for me to introduce the chairperson of the first panel of the day 1, KDU IRC 2023, the Command of the Navy, Vice Admiral, UVMP Perera, RSP and 2 bars, USP, NDU, PSC, Masters in Maritime Policy, MSc Defence Management, MSc MS and NSSS, BA Defence Studies and PW. Vice Admiral Priyantha Perera is a proud product of the Royal College, Colombo. He joined the Sri Lanka Navy in the executive branch in 1987 as an officer cadet of the 5th intake of the General Sir John Kotalawala Defence University. He was awarded the Sword of Honour for the first best in the batch upon successful completion of the naval training from the Naval and Maritime Academy, Trincomalee. He was commissioned in the rank of Acting Sub-Lieutenant in 1989 and graduated from the General Sir John Kotalawala Defence University with a Bachelor of Arts degree Defence Studies with honours. In pursuing academics, he has completed the postgraduate diploma in International Relations at Bandaranaike Centre for International Studies and has also been conferred with a Masters in Science degree Defence Studies in Management from the Sir John Kotalawala Defence University. He also holds Master's degree in Maritime Policy with distinctions from the University of Wollongong, Australia. Additionally, in pursuing of professional progress, he has obtained specialization in clearance diving from the Indian Naval Diving Training School and in principal warfare from the Pakistan Navy. He is an alumnus of the US Naval War College, from where he has passed the US Naval Staff Course and National Defense University of People's Liberation Army, People's Republic of China, having attended Defense and Strategic Studies course in year 2018-19 and conferred with the Masters of Military Sciences Strategic Studies. He has rendered more than 35 years of distinguished service to the Sri Lanka Navy with a reputation of a dedicated, professional, competent and inspiring leader. His illustrious career has been enriched with vast experience in the Sri Lanka Navy in various capacities, and the officer has held command at sea and earned victories in battle as a squadron commander in the prestigious 4th Fast Attack Flotilla, the 3rd arms of the Sri Lanka Navy Fleet, as well as a group commander in the Special Boat Squadron at the height of the looming terrorist activities. He is also one of the commanding officers who led the Special Boat Squadron in the Navy and has been officer in charge of Naval Diving and Salvage Unit, spearheading some crucial salvage work. At sea, he has commanded a series of fast attack craft, fast gunboats, landing craft, fast passenger craft, SAR 4 class fast missile vessel, and his last command at sea has SLNS Sagara, an offshore patrol vessel. His key show appointments include the Commandant SLNS Shiksha, the main recruit training center of Sri Lanka Navy, Director Naval Training, Director Naval Operations, Director Naval Foreign Cooperation, Director Maritime Special Forces, Head of the Naval Research Wing, Deputy Area Commander North Central Naval Area, Commander Southern Naval Area, Commander Northern Naval Area, Deputy Chief of Staff, and finally as the Chief of Staff of the Sri Lanka Navy. Vice Admiral Priyantha Perera is a recipient of Ranasura Padakkama Prize for conspicuous display of gallantry in combat and Uttama Seva Padakkama for unblemished service and devotion to duty. The senior officer has been commended by former commanders of the Navy 8 times for his leadership and professional conduct in challenging circumstances and tasks. His prowess in sports is very versatile, ranging from aquatic sports of swimming, water polo, windsurfing, kayaking and speed boating to adventure, cycling, musketry, fencing and archery, among other things. He holds the record of being the first to circumnavigate Sri Lanka in a sea kayak and formerly held office as General Secretary of National Association and Canoe and Kayaking in Sri Lanka, working diligently to promote paddle sport in the country. He is also an international technical official of canoe, sprint and dragon boat discipline of International Canoe Federation and qualified level 1 coach in canoeing. Vice Admiral Perera is married to Mrs. Mala Lamaheva and they are blessed with 2 sons, Sachit and Shama. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would like to call upon the chairperson of the first panel, Vice Admiral Piyantha Perera, the Command of the Navy, to moderate the session. Sir, over to you.
Good morning, Vice Chancellor of Kuthalawala Defence University, the former Vice Chancellor, dignitaries, senior officers, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Today, the deliberation is all about this first session in the morning, although we are a little late now. Resilience in national security. We have eminent speakers, which I will introduce to seats, and 2 actually participating online. Now, talking about the national security, there was a time everybody thought that the national security is all about defending your nation. Since the Westphalians, since the state came to be, the threats onto a state considered national security infringement. So what they initially believing in, the military threat to a state. But it is not that anymore. It's more complicated than that. It's about protecting the lives and personal security of that state, the aspiration of the progress of that state, the economic well-being, other national interest. And these security threats usually portrays in number of photos. To tell you the fame, we can name political security. If you look back what happened to this country a year ago, the political unrest. You know, somebody just believing that their self-assumption or believing that a political Puritans attempting to change the governance, but do they have the capacity to rule or the govern a state afterward? So, world over, you know, not just the Sri Lanka, in the recent time, we see this happening. So, territorial security, military security, economic security, we have seen how the country plunged into the rock bottom. And we heard in the morning the keynote speaker elaborating on how we are gradually now coming out to stabilize ourselves. It will take little more time for us to get there. Cyber security, space security, cultural security, social security, information security, biological security, maritime security. I mean, talking of maritime security, location of a nation, a state, is also important. There was a time in 70s, one believed again, because of the strategic distances of the fighting capacity of the great nations, they thought the location is not that much important. But the location, as it comes to see now, very much important, because the various other, the factors that are affecting on the regionally, the location of a state is very important. If you are an island nation, it is even more important. And There are grey zone activities. You don't have the rules to play by. It happens on land, it happens at sea. The laws governing these activities are not so clear. It's not in black and white. The Wagner groups in Ukraine, the private military contractors, these are threats to a state. The way that you can amass a force against a state. Not just state parties, non-state parties. These are all security concerns for a state. So, without further ado, let me now get on to the stage here. Our eminent speakers, we have Major General Sujeewa Senarath Yapa. Please come and take your seat. He is currently, and gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen, today our speakers are also the senior most leaders of the high seats, higher military education seats of the respective countries, and over 35, 36, 38 years of experience in the military service. General Sujeewa Silla, presently the Commandant, National Defence College of Sri Lanka. He was previously the Deputy Chief of Staff of the Army, and Commando Regiment, the Special Forces Regiment, vast experience in combat, and also he has secured he did his National Defense University in Beijing, China, and he also secured a master's degree study from the Kotelawala Defense University. Thank you very much. And then we have online the Commandant of the National Defense College of India, Lieutenant General Sukriti Singh Dahiya. Again, the National Defense College of India. He has served in combat areas, particularly in the line of actual control, and engaged in number of operations during his time. He has had command in battalion level, brigade level, and also divisional levels at the line of actual control. And I believe he's a civil engineer as well. He has done his Staff College of Wellington, and then the higher command course at Army War College, Mohau, and then he was also an attendee and done his NDC course, the 58th NTC course in India. He's been awarded with Sena Medal, the Vishishta Seva Medal, and number of other commendations. And he's also an avid cyclist. Welcome you, sir. And then we have Lieutenant General Datuk Mardzuki bin Muhamad, the Vice Chancellor of the National Defense University, Malaysia. He was also the Eastern Field Commander of the Malaysian Army before he took over the position as the Vice Chancellor of the National Defense University of Malaysia. He's a bachelor degree. He has a bachelor. He is also another civil engineer. He has a bachelor degree in the civil engineering from the University of Hartford, USA, and a Master of Social Sciences in the field of defense studies from the Malaysian University. May I have you here, sir? Then we have our third speaker physically attending, Lieutenant General Akbar Hossain, the Commandant, National Defense College of Bangladesh. General is an artillery officer. He also had commanded an infantry division, apart from being brigade commanders and regiment commanders earlier on. And he's a PhD. He has a PhD from Jahangir University. He has also attended Armed Forces War course from National Defense College. And he belongs to intelligence fraternity, one time Director General Forces Intelligence. He was Defence Services Commandant Staff College as well before he took over the high seat of the National Defence College of Bangladesh. May I have you here, sir? And lastly, again participating online, we have Major General Muhammad Raza, Aizad, the Director General Institute for Strategic Studies, Research Analysis, National Defence University, Pakistan. General also had the battalion level and the brigade level and the infantry division level commands in prior. He also has served in number of operational areas and also border alone Afghanistan. He is also a graduate from Command and Staff College, Qatar, Pakistan, National Defence University, Islamabad, and Joint Services Command and Staff College, Shrivenham, United Kingdom. Welcome to the forum today, sir. So, without further ado, shall we start? And I invite General Yapa to present his paper.
The Chairperson, the Vice Chancellor of General Surgeon Kotalawala Defence University, senior professors, academia, other foreign dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to all of you. I stand before you today with a heart full of gratitude and excitement as I address this distinguished gathering, where exceptional intellects come together to exchange perspective and collectively push the boundaries of our horizons. It is an immense privilege to be here at KDU International Research Conference 2023 among such a remarkable assembly of minds and ideas. At the outset, I would like to take a moment to express my deepest appreciation for the Vice Chancellor of KDU, organizers, and the entire team behind this conference for extending me the privilege of delivering a speech. In our interconnected world, the sharing of ideas holds unprecedented significance. The challenges we face are complex and multifaceted, requiring inventive answers that blend various skills and expertise. Throughout history, conferences such as this have served as the breeding ground for discoveries where new ideas are put to the test, concept honed, and partnership established. As we step into this shared space of dialogue, let us remember that every voice here today has the potential to shape the trajectory of our collective understanding. Therefore, I am genuinely excited about the opportunity to contribute to the conference dialogue and share my insight on the topic of resilience in the face of evolving national security challenges of Sri Lanka. Concept of, since the time is limited, I thought of confining my speech to address 4 key areas, namely the concept of national security, the Sri Lanka's strategic environment, how shall we pursue national security for resilience, the finally commitment of National Defence College towards developed Sri Lanka. National security has always been a pivotal concern of any nation state and is traditionally associated with sovereignty and territorial integrity, namely protection from external threats. However, the scope of national security has been ever expanding. With the time, it has encompassed additional characteristics due to continuous changes in the nature of threat. We live in a century of great disruption, transformation, disputes, and alliances. The emergence of artificial intelligence, the global impact of COVID-19 pandemic, and the subsequent rise of trade and ideological conflicts are among hallmarks of the era we live in. Numerous non-military factors that cover a wide spectrum such as governance of institutions, environmental concerns, economy, essential technologies, energy, cyber, and even the potential future innovations contribute towards today's national security environment. There are various definitions for national security, depending on the context, perspective, and states. The specific emphasis and priorities within each definition can vary based on a country's unique circumstances, values, and strategic concerns. However, in Sri Lankan context, I believe that it should essentially encompass the collective realization of our enduring values, interests, and efforts aimed at guarding and advancing against internal vulnerabilities and external threats. No element can be allowed to undermine national power, social cohesion, national will, and resilience required for protecting us in our dark hours. Next, I will give a brief insight to Sri Lanka's strategic environment. For centuries, the Indian Ocean region has been relatively calm place in geopolitical affairs. However, since the dawn of 21st century, the dynamics of geopolitics started to dictate terms in the Indian Ocean region at a more rapid pace than ever before and became a key nexus of many concerns. The center of gravity of global trade, security, and demographic has already shifted to Asia, which is home to almost 60% of the world population. In this regard, being a maritime island nation, Sri Lanka is challenged by limited natural resources, geographical scale, and terrain that other countries prize for their sustainment and defense. Thus, Sri Lanka needs to understand the reality of her vulnerability economically, politically, technologically, and militarily in a world that has experienced fundamental changes in traditional geopolitics and socio-economic alliances. Defeating threats arising from both internal and external environments to safeguard the country is the essential core national interest of Sri Lanka. Harmonizing political and diplomatic interest, economic interest, and socio-cultural interest, techno-scientific interest, and environmental interest, and military interests are essential to secure the core interest of the state. Sri Lanka as a nation state since independence has witnessed many economic downturns, political turbulences, climate issues, pandemics, social upheaval, unrest, insurrection, and separatist insurgency that lasted almost 3 decades. The 2019 Easter Sunday bombing and the events that unfolded recently over the last year, resulting in island-wide chaos, calamity, and unprecedented violence, underscores this worrying phenomena. A critical inquiry into these sequels suggests that Sri Lanka needs to be more perceptive and assertive to influence us from the periphery to its center. Deliberate proxy interventions at eroding and erasing national unity, capitalizing on underlying fault lines of ethnicity, religion, race, and language by regional and extra-regional actors cannot be ruled out. Avoidance, delay, or responding inappropriately to such paradoxes would be catastrophic for the survival of the nation and the state. Certainly, to redress these challenges, we will need to solidify and strengthen our social cohesion and our national will. How shall we pursue national security? Sri Lanka's national security approach is constantly affected by her unique geostrategic location and the country's post-independence history. Meanwhile, the evolving geopolitical situation also elevates the country as a regional flashpoint. History also needs to be taken into consideration, as over millennia, the island has suffered consequences due to negligence to threats and opportunities provided by its maritime sphere. The prudent and rigorous strategies are highly essential to avoid risk. This context demands that Sri Lanka need to pursue a pragmatic, multi-pronged path in asserting and securing her interest for prosperity, stability, whilst elevating the island as a credible stakeholder in the Indian Ocean region. Ensuring national security in today's complex and dynamic environment requires a comprehensive approach that extends beyond traditional measures. Most importantly, Sri Lanka, an island nation, should view her security, development, and the future challenges through the premise of her as an aspiring maritime nation. We have to solidify and strengthen our social unity and our determination in facing those challenges. This whole-of-nation approach to national security resilience entails the involvement and collaboration of all segments of the society. This includes government sector, private sector, civil society, in a coordinated effort to prepare for, respond to, and recover from a wide range of challenges. Citizens should not be just passive recipients of security measures. They should be active stakeholders. Encouraging public participation through education, training, and community engagement creates a populace that is not only informed but also invested in the nation's security resilience. A resilient nation is built upon a foundation of strong communities. Fostering inclusivity, diversity, and social cohesion ensures that citizens stand together in the face of adversity, contributing to both psychological and physical resilience. By demonstrating how each citizen's action can directly impact national security, we encourage a sense of ownership that motivates people to be proactive and vigilant. Finally, I would like to mention the commitment of National Defence College towards developed Sri Lanka. I believe that the central of the success of all these endeavors is strategic leadership. Effective strategic leadership plays a pivotal role in driving above-mentioned transformation towards resilience and sustainability. Visionary leaders set the tone by championing policies that integrate these principles into the core fabric of the nation. They inspire stakeholders, both public and private, to collaborate in achieving these shared goals. Leadership is not confined to the political arena. It extends to public service, industry, academia, and all the way down to local communities. Their collective efforts guide the transformation process and ensure that national security remains at the forefront. In this regard, the National Defence College of Sri Lanka plays a pivotal role in driving transformation for national security in the country by producing policymakers and strategic level decision makers. The National Defence College has been inaugurated as the premier strategic education establishment under Ministry of Defence to develop future policymakers in the realm of national security. Realizing the importance of effective coordination between the defence policy and the economic, industrial, administrative, and foreign policies of the state. The National Security and Strategic Studies course is a multidisciplinary learning platform tailored to facilitate the formulation of strategic options for decision-making with respect to current national, regional, and global scenarios that affect national security and policy. The National Defence College will usher in a new strata of defence professionalism and foster inter-institutional synergy among future policymakers who can collectively contribute to achieving the national security objective of the country. Moreover, the National Defence College places special emphasis on course participants with the creative and critical thinking abilities as well as the leadership qualities necessary to navigate complex security landscape. These skills are essential for crafting and implementing effective policies that address multi-layered threats, ranging from traditional military concerns to emerging non-traditional security challenges like cyber threats, economic vulnerabilities, and environmental risk. In conclusion, the convergence of resilience, sustainability, sectorial transformation, and leadership in the pursuit of national security presents a complex yet critical challenge for the nation worldwide. Robust national security policies and strategies are vital for safeguarding a nation's interest, protecting its citizens, and maintaining stability in an ever-evolving world. These policies provide a structured approach to addressing a wide range of threats while upholding democratic values and human rights. In essence, people's determination for national security is a combination of patriotism, historical context, interest, and a desire to perceive the well-being of the nation. In modern complex, multifaceted, and intertwined world, resilience for national security requires whole-of-nation approach. This has the force multiplier effect, which is of particular importance for small states. This needs sectorial transformation through strategic leaders in many fields, and the primary role of National Defence College of Sri Lanka is to develop such leadership for the nation. Thank you.
Thank you, General Yapa. And now let me invite General Dahiya from the Indian National Defence College, the Commandant Indian National Defence College, to deliver his paper on comprehensive national security. Sir, you are welcome. Can we have you on screen?
I just want a confirmation that am I audible?
You are very much, sir. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Honorable Chairperson, Admiral Perera, Rear Admiral Damika Kumara, the Vice Chancellor, KDU, members of the faculty, esteemed fellow panelists, seminar participants, ladies and gentlemen, Ayubowan. At the outset, I thank the former Vice Chancellor, General Perez, and the Sir John Kotelwala Defence University for inviting me to speak at the 16th Research Conference. May I also apologize for not being physically present there on this momentous occasion, which I ought to have not missed. I begin with a quote from Dr. K. Subramaniam, one of India's pioneering strategic thinker, according to whom, I quote, "Security is a much broader concept than defense. Security has to be defined as the management of change in an orderly manner, which leads to harmonization of conflicting interests, views, perspectives between different groups within the nation and amongst different nations," unquote. Flowing from such an understanding, we realize that comprehensive national security primarily implies economic security, energy security, health security, food security, cyber security, environmental security, and, of course, military security. In contemporary terms, these various facets of security are not divorced from each other. For instance, a potential cyber attack could cripple a country's stock market and thus pose a challenge to the economic security, while a supply chain disruptions can wreak havoc on the nation's food security. Let me borrow from the Buddhist wisdom the concept of the mandala, in which each point is somehow interconnected to the other. Therefore, the concept of resilience becomes important to grasp, understand, and imbibe if we are to ensure disturbances at one point don't cause disruptions in another. Ladies and gentlemen, resilience does not mean imperviousness to shocks or vulnerability to uncertainties. Rather, Resilience implies having the ability to absorb shocks and the wherewithal to function in uncertainties to the best of one's abilities. That brings us to the question, how does one become resilient? I would attempt to address this with 4 tenets. The first one is resilience through self-reliance. In the Indian context, one of the strategies India has adopted to become reliant is by following the principle of self-reliance through Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan or Self-Reliant India Mission. Launched in May 2020, it aims to make India self-reliant across sectors, reducing its dependence on critical imports and enhancing domestic production capabilities. Under this initiative, a number of measures have been taken to improve defense indigenization and domestic manufacturing. Prominent amongst these are the emphasis on procuring from domestic manufacturers, positive indigenization lists, establishment of defense industrial corridors, the corporatization of the Public Ordnance Factory Board. The Ministry of Defense has also taken significant steps for promoting the roles of micro, small and medium enterprises or the MSMEs in the defense sector, including encouraging defense innovation by startups, by earmarking up to rupees 10 billion exclusively to domestic MSMEs. The initiative aims to mitigate and adapt to shocks, disruptions and uncertainties in the supply chain by establishing domestic production capabilities of critical defense equipment and platforms. As we all know, defense supply chains face a range of vulnerabilities that have a direct impact on defense preparedness and operational efficiency. And so, one of the ways one aspires to achieve national resilience across sectors is by aiming to become self-reliant, especially in defense. The second tenet is the emphasis on key industries and technologies. To my mind, the next step in our journey towards achieving resilience is to figure what needs to be our focus areas. What are those key enabling technologies, those force multipliers, which we would need to foster to not only become resilient, but also perhaps to achieve competitive advantage in a globalized, hyper-competitive market. Excuse me. This is where recognizing of transformative potential digitalization becomes important. In India, digitalization has revolutionized healthcare sector in particular, enabling improvements in efficiency, accessibility and patient care. With Aadhaar and UPI, digitization has also transformed governance and banking systems, making them more transparent, efficient and inclusive. Various e-government initiatives have digitalized public services, enabling citizens to access government information, pay taxes, and apply for licenses, amongst other things. It has also had a cascading effect in the defense arena. Digitization implies the slow but steady infusion of digital technologies such as cloud computing, big data, data analytics, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, and blockchain into the defense processes and operations that are leveraged as chain enablers. Digital technologies improve legacy processes and enhance operational and mission efficiencies, which in turn enable faster decision making and better situational awareness. Government of India has constituted a task force for strategic implementation of artificial intelligence for national security and defense, which provides an institutional framework for policy implementation, issuing guidelines to defense organizations, and laying out a vision for capacity building. In February 2019, the ministry established a high-level Defense AI Council under the chairmanship of the Honorable Defense Minister, assigned with the task of providing strategic direction towards the adoption of AI in defense. The DAIC guides the partnerships between the government and the industry and also reviews the recommendations concerning the acquisition of new technology. However, what must be borne in mind is that for such technologies to be able to contribute to national security resilience efforts, adequate oversight mechanisms comprising highest level of cyber security, hardened systems, and creation of a trained, specialized human resource would have to go hand in hand. I would leave this point on an optimistic yet cautionary note. Infusion of the 21st century technologies within the national security structures must be undertaken in a deliberate, premeditated manner, being fully cognizant of both its strengths and vulnerabilities. Let me shift to the third tenet, that's enabling structures and environment. To achieve self-reliance and resilience, to my mind, requires visionary leadership at the government level. The government-steered initiatives must be undertaken to create supporting structures and an enabling environment wherein innovation and entrepreneurial drive can flourish. Such an environment has to be secure, stable, robust, and encouraging towards the thriving industries. While I could quote India's green revolution of the 60s, the white revolution of the 70s, or the economic liberalization of the 1990s, because all these initiatives fostered a particular positive environment for growth and prosperity, let me cite and complement the robust measures taken in Sri Lanka last year onwards, following the financial crisis. Now, in the aftermath of the crisis, you are well aware, the Sri Lankan government had articulated a national transformation roadmap, the framework based on the interim budget passed in the parliament in 2022, the IMF agreement, and the budget of 2023. Now, this roadmap articulated a two-pronged approach. The first addressed the immediate crisis to stabilize and recover the economy, entailing resumption of economic activities, meeting the daily needs of people for fuel, food, fertilizers, and ensuring food security, and kick-starting the negotiations with IMF. The medium and long-term measures were to revive and develop the economy at the set target and make the economic development sustainable. The spirit of resilience shown by the Sri Lankan government and its people, while commendable, has not been surprising. This is a country which had been embroiled in and has emerged triumphant from one of the longest insurgencies in history to rebuild itself into what it is today. There cannot be a better example than the Sri Lanka story to illustrate how enabling environments created today can transform our resilience for tomorrow. Therefore, visionary leadership, action-oriented policies formulated to serve the greater common good become imperative towards not only being resilient, but also thriving and leapfrogging ahead of the curve. The last of my suggested tenets is recognizing the power of strategic partnership. Let me quote the English poet John Donne when he once remarked, "No man is an island." To my mind, this line is as apt today to individuals as it is to nations, including island nations like Sri Lanka. I would return here to the concept of the mandala I had mentioned in the opening remarks and argue once again that the current age, no nation can survive and thrive on its own. Not only do we need a whole of government approach to our challenges, but at times we also need a multitude of nations approach. In an age such as ours, global strategic partnerships are critical in making us resilient by providing the safety net of friendship. Strategic partnerships are important towards harnessing investment, transferring technology, generating employment, and fostering cross-training and upskilling of human resources. However, as history has taught us, such partnerships cannot be, or rather should not be, based on motives. Such partnerships must be forged on mutual respect, care, and concern for each other's welfare. Hence, such partnerships must be tempered by good order, mutual respect, and an absence of quid pro quo expectations. India's neighborhood first policy and the security and growth for all in the region, or SAGAR policy, through which there has been a new impetus to reinvigorate relations with our neighbors, and other multilateral institutions such as BIMSTEC, SCO, and ASEAN merit mention over here. One of the recent noteworthy manifestations of such an approach is the recently released India-Sri Lanka Economic Partnership Vision document of July 23. To my mind, this vision document, with its emphasis on air and maritime connectivity, energy and power connectivity, trade, economic and financial connectivity, and most importantly, people-to-people connectivity, is an apt example of how nations coming together paves way to achieve growth, counter adversities, and become more resilient. Another area where strategic partnerships can help us is in the area of sustainability, given that many common concerns such as climate change, carbon footprint, global warming affect all nations. As a pleasant footnote, I am pleased to also highlight that in June 2023, India and Sri Lanka signed a memorandum of understanding for cooperation in the field of renewable energy. Once again, on a note of optimism and caution, strategic partnerships will serve to multiply our strengths, divide our weaknesses, only if they are forged on ethical principles of equality, amicability, and mutual respect, devoid of ill intent. To conclude, I reiterate my four main arguments that achieving resilience in all domains in today's age entails endeavoring to be self-reliant, nurturing niche and force-multiplying technologies, creating enabling environment for innovation, diversification, and sectoral transformations, nurturing strategic partnerships based on mutual respect and concern. Finally, I thank you again, Rear Admiral Kumara, Vice Chancellor of the KDU, for providing me this opportunity to speak at this intellectually stimulating platform. I hope the seminar sparks many fresh ideas, debates, and discussions, which can help us come closer, become stronger, and work together to be more resilient. Lastly, should there be any questions or clarifications about my conversation, I shall attempt to respond to them to the best of my erudition. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, General Dahiya. Such a stimulating presentation, the thought-provoking message as well. With that, let me now invite, of course, we will take the questions at the end of this. Definitely there will be some questions to you, I believe. So the third presentation today is Achieving Resilience in the Age of Digitalization, a Strategic Wave by Lieutenant General Datuk Mardzuki bin Muhamad from National Defense University of Malaysia. Please, sir.
First, thank you, Chairperson Admiral Perera, for giving me the opportunity to share my thought on the subject matter. Good morning, distinguished guests, esteemed participants, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed an honor and privilege to be invited as a plenary speaker of this August conference. I would like to thank Rear Admiral Daminka Kumara, Vice Chancellor of Sir John Katwala Defence University, Sri Lanka, and the organizer for having faith in appointing me as one of the speakers. I know it is noon time, about lunchtime, so I try my best not to make you guys close your eyes. Okay, for my speech today, allow me to start by sharing my thought about the importance of building resilience, especially in the wake of shocking event that has occurred more than 2 decades ago. I will then proceed with some thought about the digitalization and the risks it entails. More importantly though, I will focus on the military ecosystem and dimension of digitalization. At the end of my presentation, I will provide an orthodox viewpoint about resilience and digitalization for the military, which may disappoint some of the futurists present in the audience present here, but a realistic reflection of military performance during war. In the 9/11 terrorist attack which occurred 22 years ago, some companies located in the World Trade Center suffered a loss of almost their entire work staff. Cantor Fitzgerald, a global finance service provider, lost a staggering of 658 employees working in the top 5 floor of the World Trade Center North Tower. I remember following the 9/11 attack, many companies in Malaysia started to take serious steps to mitigate security risks by building resilience and recovery measures in the event of its large workforce were killed, along with disruption of essential business record in a potential catastrophic terrorist attack or disaster. As part of their risk management, banks, businesses, service provider realized the need to diversify storage business record and started to digitalize their record and store them in different facilities and locations rather than locating them in one location. Work done by essential staff has also become automated through the utilization of computers, software, and business information architectures. This is, in a sense, was a start building resilience through digitalization. At the same time, with the advent of new computers, communication, and digital and electronic networking technologies, militaries around the world have started to transform their command, control, and communication with the utilization of computers, electronic, and cyber network with automated and remotely controlled intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance platform. This combination gave birth to the acronym of C4ISR, which is Command, Control, Communication, Computers, and Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance. With the advent of C4ISR technological concept, militaries continue to use electronic and digital technologies to enhance its C4ISR capability, metamorphosing into network-centric operation or NCO and network-centric warfare or NCW concept. All of these concepts were also influenced by John Boyd, ODA, OODA loop, an acronym for Observe, Orientate, Decide, and Action. In sum, observe the enemy faster, orientate and understand what is the enemy planning to do, decide how to counter enemy action, and take action against the enemy. Who can ODA loop the enemy, in essence, making faster decision-making, taking action cycle may disrupt the enemy tactics and strategies, leading to the ultimate destruction and defeat of the enemy or adversaries. A recent development is the innovation and application of artificial intelligence or AI, big data and Internet of Things, IoT, for military purposes have continued to transform modern warfare. The digitalization of military power will also entail the building of digital resilience for these new technologies and operational doctrines. Nonetheless, while digital network system will enhance combat performance, such systems such as centralized NCO centers can become prime center of gravity or COG, target for the enemy to seek and destroy on its first strike during the war. The enemy will also strive to destroy the infrastructure that support this digital network, which require electricity, electrical grid, electrical relay station, and electrical generating plants to operate. Digital platforms also rely on cyber network to operate, which in turn relies on the fiber optic cables, telecommunication towers and stations, and cyber control center to function. What if this infrastructure COG are destroyed in the first few hours of the war? Cruise missile and guided bombs can destroy electrical power station and C4SIR center. Electrical grids can be short-circuited by dropping aluminum shaft from the aircraft or drones. Undersea fiber optic cable can be cut and neutralized by unmanned underwater vessel or special forces divers. Computer and digital network can also be paralyzed by cyber attack using malware, viruses, and Trojan horses. Hence, while we understand that we need to attain digital resilience, the question that we must answer is, how do you recover your operational capabilities and combat tempo if your digital network and platforms are destroyed or seriously degraded? Also, can you rebuild this infrastructure platform in the face of relentless enemy strike? In view of this critical question, I would like to argue here from a different tangent about building digital resilience. What I crucially believe is that we need to be able to recover fast enough from the initial shock of having your digital system and network destroyed, and still able to effectively counter the enemy. Ladies and gentlemen, by being digitally resilient, we must also learn to undigitalize. In other words, we must learn to operate in an environment where we do not have digital platforms or network that still operate, but still be able to perform our tasks and responsibility effectively or good enough so as not to lose tactical and operational initiative in the war. This is essential for any strategy to sustain a state survival or defeat the enemy. I would like to apologize for being digital apocalyptical, but as a strategic and military history has demonstrated numerous times, a lot of new technology promises, especially in the realm of military tools, occasionally fail miserably in the tough, unforgiving combat environment, an enemy trying to outsmart or outdo us. I would like to prove my point here by two real-world examples. First, when Russia invaded Ukraine last year, pardon my language of invaded, the opening Russia air campaign strove to destroy Ukrainian C4ISR center, but failed to do so. What went wrong for the Russians? The Ukrainians understood early that if they concentrated their C4ISR digital network in a few centers, this location can become attractive target for the Russian airstrike. The Ukrainians simply prevented that by decentralizing the C4ISR centers and dispersed them in the various locations throughout the country. Ukraine Defense Forces continued to fight effectively, coordinated defensive campaign with decentralized command and control, enabling small units to decide and act independently against the Russian forces. The change from high-tech digitalized network warfare to low-tech small unit conducting independent but coherent series of surprise skirmishes and bloody ambushes succeeded in holding back the Russian offensive from multiple fronts and later forcing the Russian to retreat in some of the areas. My next example is the F-4 Phantom II fighter bomber aircraft used by the US Air Force and the US Navy during the Vietnam War in the 1960s. The earlier variant of the F-4 was built without a cannon, as it was believed that air combat will be dominated by the usage of guided air-to-air missile, and aircraft flying faster than the speed of sound will not be able to dogfight and use its gun effectively. It was indeed a shock for the Americans when the F-4 was first used over the North Vietnam. Not only did the early versions of AIM-7 Sparrow and AIM-9 Sidewinder missile not work as advertised, not Vietnamese MiG-21 equipped with cannon could get behind the F-4 and shot them down with their guns. As a top measure get, a 6-barrel 20mm M61 cannon pod was subsequently carried by the F-4. Later, the cannon was finally built into the F-4E variant. Needless to say, the belief in future technology in the case of Phantom F-4-2 were misguided. As a result, a number of American pilots paid dearly with their life due to the failed promises of the technology of the future combat. The lesson was ubiquitously quality of the aircraft cannon, however, were not lost. Today, 5th generation fighters such as F-22 Raptor and F-35 Lightning II were still equipped with M61 cannon, a low-tech weapon on a high-tech platform. Distilling important lessons from this example, I am proposing a paradoxical argument here. In order to achieve resilience in the digital world, we must also learn to operate in the undigitalized environment. Ladies and gentlemen, the uncertainties of warfare and the friction that comes along with it, guided by a long record of strategic and military history, caution us on the promises of technology. By understanding and learning how to operate and continue to sustain military operation without digitalization, it is equally important as being able to operate in a modern digitalized world. I mentioned though that I deliberately did not touch about the technological promise of digitalization, how to build a digital resilient, and how it will transform our way of doing things, as I'm aware there are experts here who know more than what I can do with. Nonetheless, my years of military experience and as a keen student of strategic study have built my understanding that the troublesome principle of uncertainty and friction will rear their ugly heads when bullets start flying. It is my humble opinion that to achieve resilience in digitalization, we must learn and be trained to be resilient in an undigitalized world, transforming ourselves to be able to sustain our military operation effectively and able to operate in both digital and non-digital domain. Besides having a world-class leading digital network and asset and able to utilize them efficiently, you must also be able to continue performing your tasks effectively when your digital network and assets have been serially degraded or destroyed. Only then you will have attained resilience in the true sense of the word, thus ensuring sustainability and meaningful sectoral transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that my thoughts have provoked your thinking and will drive the discussion in the next panel discussion. Do not compartmentalize your thought. Think about the unthinkable. Have unfettered discussion about the future possibility, but grounded in the lesson from our thick annal of strategic and military history. I would like to conclude my talk with a quote from Alvin Toffler, who is a futurist and early digital revolutionary. His writing also influenced a generation of revolution of military affairs RMA thinkers. He said aptly, "The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn." With that, I wish you all a great session ahead, and thank you very much for your indulgence and kind attention. Sekian, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. And our next speaker will deliver his thoughts on the resilient Bangladesh securing a safe and prosperous future. General Hossain, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chancellor, former and present of KDU, and esteemed gathering. Good afternoon. My topic is resilient Bangladesh. I think we have a lot of similarities among the South Asian countries. Our challenges, our history, our opportunities have got many similarities. So how we see resilience from Bangladesh perspective and how we are doing it up to 2041 or even 2100, the strategic planning has been done. So according to that, I'll try to address the issue. Today, old playbooks of national security solutions are no longer adequate to meet the contemporary challenges. The climate crisis, the horrors of war in Ukraine, and heightening tension in South China Sea add considerable urgency to the task of building a new paradigm of national security. In today's global context, national security resilience has become a critical aspect in ensuring the stability and prosperity of nations. By definition, Resilience is the ability to prepare for, withstand, and quickly recover from a disruptive event, be it pandemic, financial crisis, terrorist attack, or significant cyber disaster. Resilience in NATO context refers to the capacity to prepare for resist, respond, and quickly recover from shocks and disruptions. Consequently, the idea of national security resilience refers to the country's ability to endure and recover from varied security threats and difficulties while preserving these basic values and structures. The essence of Bangladesh's national security paradigm originates from the national core values, that is democracy, nationalism, socialism, and secularism. Contemporary geostrategic trends, together with the global pandemic, have led to the complex web of systematic factors, both the international and regional nature, influence Bangladesh's national security in one or the other. Bangladesh, to encounter multifarious security challenges at global, regional, and domestic levels, need to adopt the concept of comprehensive security that would give it strategic space to play its role in all situations. In the process, we will take a journey through the historical context and national security, government initiatives, and lastly, contemporary thoughts. The historical concept of national security in Bangladesh is quite fascinating. After a 9-month-long of glorious war of liberation, it was finally gained its freedom in 1971. The war not only shaped the national identity but also laid the foundation for its national security concerns. Following the foreign policy of friendship to all and malice to none, since her independence in 1971 was the policy adopted by the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, continues to provide the philosophical underpinning of Bangladesh's commitment in maintaining global peace. Since its independence, Bangladesh has faced various challenges, both internal and external. Militancy, terrorism have been major issues that the country had to tackle. With the rise of extremist groups like Jamaat al-Mujahideen, Bangladesh, JMB, Ansarullah Bangla team, the nation's security has put to test in those days. In addition, the geographical proximity to the Golden Triangle, Golden Crescent, makes Bangladesh a vulnerable route to arms and drug trafficking, smuggling. Above all, a disaster-prone country, Bangladesh needs to develop a healthy and sustainable environment. Through the years, the Bangladesh government has taken several initiatives to ensure national security, strengthening law enforcement agencies, enhancing intelligence capabilities, and formulating effective counter-terrorism strategies. Those have been the forefront of all our efforts. Additionally, bilateral cooperation and with international partners have been instrumental in addressing security concerns. Community engagement and awareness programs have been implemented to foster a sense of responsibility and active participation among the citizens. Promoting social cohesion and the national social security strategy at the grassroots levels were essential elements of national security resilience. National Resilience Program. To increase the country's resilience to shocks and stresses, the government of Bangladesh has launched a National Resilience Program in collaboration with the United Nations agencies, namely the United Nations Development Program, United Nations Women, and the United Nations Office of Project Services. The primary goal of NRP is to sustain the resilience of human and economic development in Bangladesh through inclusive, gender-responsive, disaster management and risk-informed development. Climate change. In 2009, the government of Bangladesh created the Bangladesh Climate Change Strategy and Action Plan. Besides, the National Adoption Program of Action, NAPA, was adopted in 2005, further updated in 2009. The updated vision of NAPA incorporated findings from previous studies to deal with adverse impacts of climate change. It emphasized the 4 security issues in Bangladesh: food, energy, water, and livelihood security. Disaster preparedness. Given its vulnerability to the natural disasters such as cyclone and floods, Bangladesh has invested in disaster preparedness and management evacuation plans, early warning systems, community-based disaster management initiatives have been established. In 2017, the National Plan for Disaster Management, NPDM, was developed. Later, NPDM 2021 to 25 focused on core goals for actions to save lives and reduce economic losses in every disaster cycle stage, including the disaster risk reduction. Humanitarian response and emergency recovery management are all part of it. Another example of capacity building is the establishment and maintenance of comprehensive national disaster management database in Bangladesh. The database serves as a crucial tool for disaster management and response, providing accurate and up-to-date information on risks, vulnerabilities, and resource availability. Forcibly displaced Myanmar national refugees. There have been continued influx of forcibly displaced Myanmar nationals across the border of Bangladesh and Myanmar since 25 August 2017. As of today, more than 10 million people are living in various makeshift, unregistered, registered settlements in Cox's Bazar. The prolonged stay has a significant impact on the community, including rising commodity prices in the local markets, reduced groundwater availability, deforestation, contamination of agricultural land, reduced wage rate and demand of labor, and lack of health care, increased gender-based violence. To avoid this irreversibility of such impacts, Bangladesh looks forward to the response of international community to mitigate this issue. Regional and international cooperation. Bangladesh maintains diplomatic relations with various countries and engages in regional international forums to address security challenges collectively. Our active participation in SAARC, in BIMSTEC, and United Nations organizations, and our active participation in United Nations peacekeeping operations, lauded by the entire world, has provided diplomatic defense in our favor so far. Apart from diplomatic dividend, UN assignment has enabled Bangladeshi peacekeepers to expose, educate in a global crisis management scenario. Economic growth and development play a significant role in bolstering national security resilience. As Bangladesh economy improves, it can allocate more resources towards security infrastructure and inclusive social welfare programs. For example, national agriculture policy in Bangladesh aims to achieve sustainable food and quality nutritional security, which we already have achieved. National ID and reporting mechanisms. The government has introduced national identification cards, reporting mechanisms that allow citizens to report suspicious activities, individuals anonymously. These mechanisms provide the avenues for citizens to contribute in the collective security effort of the nation. Building social resilience. The ability to protect oneself is dependent on resilience in every community. During any crisis, it is the resilient population that act as the last line of defense. Bangladesh is the 8th largest and one of the most homogeneous nations in the world, which amounts to huge demographic dividend. Bangladesh's national will has proved to be a strong force behind any national cause. Bangladesh started her journey in 1971 when common people fought and liberated and rebuilt the nation. Under the visionary leadership of our Prime Minister, Bangladesh, we see today nothing but the outcome of the synergetic effort of a resilient society led by good strategic leadership. The whole of government approach is inherently inclusive. Ukraine provides a model example. After 2014, Ukraine adopted a whole society approach to help bolster its government and civic sector capabilities to include psychological resilience. Bangladesh does follow the same. The whole government initiative in Bangladesh has been following a development plan known as Vision 2021, which already we have transformed into Digital Bangladesh. We have another vision that is called Vision 2041, that is Smart Bangladesh. And to enter into the world community as a developed nation. The goal is to achieve higher economic growth, advanced technology adoption, and improved human development indicators on the other hand. The Bangladesh Delta Plan 2100 is a long-term development plan that has been addressed to include all challenges related to the climate change of Bangladesh Delta Plan. The plan focuses on agriculture, nature-based management strategies rather than infrastructure as a short-term adoption strategy. All these plans take a whole of government approach, including the societies. In conclusion, Bangladesh is a small state but a large nation. Since independence, the country has emerged from the least developed country to a middle-income country, despite the global financial crisis, trade war, pandemic, the rise of non-state actors, natural and man-made disasters through resilience, innovation, and national will. For Bangladesh, each element of security is manifested with relevant security concern. To secure the national interest of Bangladesh, its security is contingent on a comprehensive security paradigm. Bangladesh, to encounter the multifarious security challenges at global, regional, domestic level, is to adopt concept of comprehensive security that would give it the strategic space to play its role in all situations. Bangladesh's national security readiness is an ongoing process that requires a multidimensional approach through continuous monitoring, learning, and adoption. It involves a combination of diplomatic efforts, policy development, technological advancement, community engagement, and cooperation with international partners to effectively address various security challenges and safeguard the nation's stability and prosperity. Thus, we aspire to become Sonar Bangla or Golden Bengal in the days to come. Joy Bangla, long live Bangladesh-Sri Lanka friendship. Thank you very much.
Thank you, General. Now, we come to our last panelist of this session. He will deliver his speech on National Security Policy of Pakistan 2022 to 2026. Major General Muhamad, I hope you are connected. Shall we have him online?
First thing, am I audible?
Yes, you are very much. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Admiral Perera, Commander, Sri Lankan Navy. Rear Admiral Dhamika Kumara, Vice Chancellor, General Sir John Kotlwala, Defence University, Sri Lanka. Dear colleagues, Generals, Excellencies, faculty and students of Sir John Kotlwala Defence University. Assalamu alaikum, and I believe it's good afternoon in Sri Lanka by this time. It is my privilege to participate in this 16th International Research Conference at Sir John Kotlwala Defence University, Sri Lanka. I am sure that the delegates attending the conference physically would be enjoying the courtesies of traditional Sri Lankan hospitality, although I can see many familiar faces today, and I wish that I could be present there physically to celebrate our deep friendship and cooperation. Before I take on the subject, the holding of Cricket Asia Cup in Pakistan and Sri Lanka, I believe, is a testimony of our brotherhood. And I'm sure all of you must be watching these matches very closely, so good luck to all the cricket teams also. Ladies and gentlemen, today I shall be speaking about Pakistan's National Security Policy document 2022-2026 that articulates a comprehensive national security framework seeking to ensure the safety, security, dignity, and prosperity of the people of Pakistan. Whereas the document recognizes both traditional and non-traditional security aspects, however, it places economic security at the core of comprehensive national security, emphasizing a geo-economic vision for Pakistan to supplement the focus on geostrategy. Ladies and gentlemen, the contemporary global strategic environment with the emergence of multiple economic and military centers, is transitioning towards a multipolar world. Pakistan's standing amidst the forces of cooperation and conflict in a challenging regional environment provides unique opportunities in an era of great power competition. Amid the evolving international order, recognizing Pakistan's geostrategic location at the crossroads of multiple sub-regions of Asia, the national security policy of Pakistan accords special priority to trade, investment, and connectivity in synchronization with a geo-economic vision for the country. Ladies and gentlemen, to enunciate Pakistan's geo-economic vision and how it complements the national security policy, I quote a few lines directly from the document. And I quote, as Pakistan supplements its geostrategic focus with an added emphasis on geoeconomics, it envisions itself as a melting pot of global economic interests, offering economic basis to its partner countries for development partnerships. It goes on to add, and I quote, Pakistan's prized geo-economic location provides a unique opportunity to north-south and east-west connectivity for South and Central Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. Westward connectivity is also a significant driver for Pakistan's continued push for regional peace and stability. Ladies and gentlemen, although the document is available online, I take the opportunity to discuss the various aspects of the national security policy of Pakistan. This policy comprises 8 sections, with the first 2 focused on formulation processes and conceptual fundamentals, while the remaining 6 identifies areas of national security and goals and objectives envisioned to be achieved. The first section on national cohesion, while cherishing the concept of unity in diversity for Pakistan's cultural and ethnic heritage, emphasizes the principles of equality, social justice, fundamental rights of the citizen, social contract, and good governance for strengthening national esteem and cohesion of Pakistan. Likewise, the segment pertaining to Pakistan's economic future specifically underlines that inclusive growth and sustainable development are prerequisites to countries' economic growth to be accomplished by offering Pakistan's geo-economic location for trade, investment, partnerships, and transit hub for the broader region. A stable economy with growth-oriented trajectory will enable Pakistan to be a major partner in the global economy through its trade and connectivity initiatives. Financial stability of Pakistan will also help to invest more in education security for a skilled human resource that is globally competitive and focused on knowledge creation, marketable skills, and emerging technology. Ladies and gentlemen, the section about Pakistan's defense and territorial integrity emphasizes upon the defense of Pakistan's territorial integrity at all costs. It maintains to deter war through all elements of national power while exercising our right to self-defense if war is imposed. This section also talks about combating disinformation and influence operations while enhancing information and cyber security, data security, and surveillance capacity. The next section in the Pakistan's national security policy document is about internal security, which takes cognizance of challenges such as terrorism, extremism, subnationalism, and sectarianism, besides organized crime. The policy enshrines that Pakistan can only become stable and secure when its citizens enjoy their constitutional rights and are protected against violence and crimes in a society governed by the rule of law, upheld equally. The national security policy lays emphasis on Pakistan's foreign policy in a changing world where the pace of change in the geopolitical arena calls for advanced understanding of global developments and their implications on national security. It articulates foreign policy choices that reduce conflicts while protecting and advancing national interests through political and economic diplomacy. Moreover, Pakistan's policy shift to geoeconomics underlines multi-alignment of its foreign policy and empowers it not to get caught in the crossfire of great power rivalries. Rather, become a melting pot of regional and global economic interests through connectivity initiatives. Last but not the least, the final section of the National Security Policy document talks about human security, which sits at the core of Pakistan's national security policy. It recognizes youth as the future of Pakistan. Its key message is the need to equip the youth with necessary tools and environment for their productive contribution towards the nation. From this premise flows the importance of health security, water security, climate security, food security, etc. Human security remains incomplete without gender security, especially of women's peace and security agenda and their integration into national security narratives in decision making, law enforcement, justice sector, and peacekeeping. Ladies and gentlemen, regional connectivity is the main thrust of Pakistan's national security policy, where it can position itself as a regional trade and transit hub for north-south and eventually east-west connectivity. Pakistan, being an important regional stakeholder, is an active member of many regional economic projects and organizations like the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor as part of the Belt and Road Initiative, Economic Cooperation Organization ECO, Central Asia Regional Economic Cooperation Corridors, South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation SAARC, and Shanghai Economic Cooperation SCO for a commitment to the resolve that trade and economic initiatives should not be made captive to bilateral disputes or enmity. In this context, Pakistan's support and facilitation for many regional cooperation frameworks such as Iran-Pakistan gas pipeline, CASA 1000, TAPI, which is Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India gas pipeline project, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Uzbekistan railway project, including others, is one of the country's strategic priorities. Pakistan would work to bring such initiatives of regional connectivity and economic integration to their logical conclusion for greater socio-economic dividends for the people of the region. Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan's national security policy provides a win-win paradigm of regional connectivity, trade, and economic partnerships, not only for Pakistan, but for the broader region as well, to create economic integration and interdependence by leveraging each other's geography and location for a brighter and prosperous future for all of us. That brings me to the end of my remarks. I once again express my pleasure to be part of this August gathering, and thank you, Sir John Kotlewala Defence University, for offering me the opportunity to participate. I shall be available to answer any questions that you may have about my topic of discussion today. Thank you once again. Pakistan, Zindabad.
Thank you very much, General. Please, General Muhamad and General Dahiya, stick with us for a while. Now, that brings to the end of the presentation of papers by all these 5 eminent speakers today. And the conference management keeps me informed that we are very much time pressed, and I may have to at one point sacrifice sometimes over questions. But quickly, shall we have some interesting questions directing to our eminent panelists today? I very much appreciate that your question comes with to which speaker that question is aimed for. Yes.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Commodore Hossain from Sri Lanka Navy and from National Defence College, Sri Lanka. First of all, thank you very much for the comprehensive presentations with great insight. And my question is for Commandant, National Defence College, India, General Dahiya, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
General Dahiya, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you very much, sir. My question focuses on to Indian space policy that was approved by the appointed Cabinet Committee on Security. And first of all, I congratulate for the successful landing of Chandrayaan-3 and the successful launching of Aditya L1. And the question related to space and how best this approved space policy of India can enhance the integration and the strategic partnerships in the region, which will enhance the regional security and the resilience in the region. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, interesting question. Space, the final frontier, holds a whole lot of promise for all of us. We in India, of course, are extremely proud of our space scientists who've made a tremendous progress. That said, I think as a nation, we've already made a declaration and a commitment to all our friends in the neighborhood and otherwise, where we are willing to share the knowledge gained and the expertise acquired towards a common benefit. I think we've already had collaboration on this as far as communication satellites go. We are also actively sharing data and information both in terms of entertainment, internet connectivity, weather pattern understanding, and GIS. Should there be any requirements from any of our friendly nations, I think we are in a position to help. That said, as a military man, I must also put a caution. As with everything else that is related to electronics, there is always that overhang element of doubt and suspicion that sometimes comes up. Even when there are very friendly and genuine intentions, but there would always be some school of thought which would be a little circumspect on international level cooperation in matters of space research and the privileges that space provides in terms of communication and entertainment. If the way I see it, as long as two nations have nothing to fear from each other, I think it calls for a collaborative effort towards overall benefit of humanity. I hope I have almost answered what you asked me.
Thank you.
May I, sir?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So I am Satish, a senior fellow from KDU. So my question goes to the General NDU Malaysia. So your presentation was very clear and touched upon the cutting edge, the security aspect of this century. That's brilliant. So my questions straight away to you. So unlike what we have been talking about, the traditional security or the national security, which fundamentally about the local centric, but what you have brought up, the present day national security is something dealing with AI or even AGI, very much focused on the cyberspace, which is dominated by either the global north or the global south. In that sense, China is very much. And also non-state actors, the big tech companies. So in that sense, to define your national security based on dealing with the technology aspect that you have brought, in case you imagine your neighboring country come coming with the weapons in the same dimension. So how do you defend your national security with these all comprehensive elements, which is you have to align with the US or the China or the big tech company? So please, thank you.
Actually, I didn't quite catch the question of your question. Is that the,
Can you make it very, because your elaborative questions that you were explaining a lot around, can we have the gist of that question once again?
Thank you, sir. My sincere apologies. Right. You have talked about the national security based on the digitalization. That's very much clear. So in order to defend your national security with the cyberspace or the technology which is available in the global north very much with even the non-state actors, the big tech companies which are generating AI and even AGI. With that concept, how do you define your national security either alliance with the global north or the global south, China? Thank you.
okay, based on what in my presentation that I told you is that that is more based on the Malaysian side of the experience, being a so-called a small country, we doesn't even have a satellite up there. So that's why, in our view, is that of course, if we are looking at in terms of Malaysia foreign policy, it's just like Bangladesh, friends for all, malice of none. So that is where we are looking. But what I'm saying is that, in my view, on the digitalization, is that we just cannot fully rely on that. Like for us, a small nation which is still relying on others to help us. So that is why we are focusing towards, you need to have both feet on the ground. It's not only just one feet on digitalization. But that will be the last resort that we're going to use in case of anything. But everything that we do is definitely based on our foreign policy and everything. And as what Malaysia it is, we are a strong believer in the peace and security among the nation. So I believe that's how I'm going to answer your question. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, on top of that, General, now we were talking, he was asking about AI, but, along with, digital, we're talking about digitalization and AI coming into that, and it brings and it opens up different kind of warfare. If you take it to consideration, the drones warfare, right? Which is available for anybody.
Yes.
Now he's talking about the set of the AI industry coming up, having it available for everybody, and he was also looking at like the commercialization, because there are, nationwide, the companies are developing this, and they have all the access to this, and how, as a nation, the national security can be dealt with it, because we have to have our countermeasures developing to this, because it's not only the nation states which will have the access to this, non-state actors. I know we obviously see this happening in Ukraine and Russia, both sides using this amply. Yes, yes.
Good morning, sir. My question goes to Malaysian General, General Datuk bin Muhamad. My question is now, as you said, future national security will depend on the high technology, artificial intelligence. That is true, because we are on the 7th generation military technological development as at now. Now, sir, my question is, national security always connected with the human security, but this technology disconnected human from the security with the introduction of laws, that is lethal armament, autonomous weapon system. So how do you see the future security, the human security with the 7th generation technological development of military, sir?
And as I said, that if we are looking at the human security and everything, so those are the big things that we need to look at. So when you are basically, as what everybody was saying, that the protection of your nation, which means the protection of human. So these are the things that we need to do in our national security. So based on whatever your country policy is, like for us, we never believe in so-called aggression. It's just like more towards it's not a proactive kind of thing. It's like a reactive kind of thing. So that's how the best I can answer for you in terms of that.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I really catch your question or not, or I really answer your question or not on that one.
Right. Thank you very much, General. Can we have one last quick question? Not a lengthy one, one last quick question. Yes. And we leave the Malaysian general out, you know.
There are 5 of us here.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Commodore Pradeep from Sri Lanka Navy and representing NDC. My question goes to Lieutenant General Hossain. So, the distinguished panelist has amply highlighted the importance of national security in terms of various security aspects, starting from economic to energy to defense and other global environmental aspects. Also, eminent scholars like Barry Busan has highlighted the same line. So you have suggested, distinguished panelists, about the fostering strategic partnerships to overcome the certain difficulties and to have the resilience in the national security. It's very important to have the strategic partnership, but also keeping the strategic autonomy in line with the country's sovereignty. This has become a great challenge to the smaller states. Rather, I will not use the word weaker state, the smaller state. Bangladesh is a country that handling this part very well with the western part as well as other countries, and going ahead with a good strategic partnership with other countries while keeping their strategic autonomy. And how do you suggest this? Sometimes the other smaller countries hinder their strategic partnership because of the fear of losing this strategic autonomy. What measures you suggest, or how do you give example to other countries, sir?
Thank you very much for the question. As I said, our foreign policy set by our founding father was friendship to all, malice to none. We have no enemy in the world. We are all friends all around. And actually, we have a defense force, it's very professional, and what we see is that we are not going to war unless it is forced on us. If we are attacked only, then we'll repulse it. But we consider that other priorities of security, taking out people out of poverty, giving them better education, healthcare, those kind of things get more priority in the government policy and other areas of security, I'll say. Many are there in the list. Now about Bangladesh, we are not pro anybody, it is pro Bangladesh. It's not pro American, pro Chinese or pro Russian. We have cooperation with everyone. Because I'll give you one example. Bangladesh, number one importer is from China, which is about $15 billion a year. We import from China, mostly raw material for ready-made garments. But our number one export destination is EU and USA, which is about $70 billion. So we bring things, produce it in Bangladesh and export it to Europe and America. We are opening up our ports for Myanmar, for India, for Nepal, for Bhutan, for and their region to be used, including deep sea port, to become a regional hub, which will give equal dividend to every country. Definitely, respecting everybody's allergies and everybody's sovereign rights of non-interference into their internal affairs. We are for the common good, and Japan is investing there for this maritime connectivity. So I was talking of this multilateral cooperation or strategic cooperation without losing the identity in equal footing. Let us grow together. We are into a new millennium where human opportunities will be much more than we have much more common ground than that of petty differences. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, panel participants. There are hardly any time to me to make a conclusion today because pressure is exerted on me a lot now that we should leave this place. But given the high profile of the speakers today and opening up so much for you to think of, and the last question, a note on that is again what Admiral Dahiya mentioned is that the same strategic connectivity as nation as the island nations or nations, and also interestingly Admiral General Muhamad also mentioned the not getting caught in the crossfire. All right, this is when you look at, because you use the word the small states as well, when you have the powers involving and wanting to make the strategic partnership, it is very much difficult, but still you need to do that what you call the smart management to balance everything, because what we are here in the Asia, the Asian, Indian Ocean, the Asian region, what all, we are very much friendly countries when when it comes to our connections are. So some has their disparities, the difficulties and the issues, but without those coming in, that we need to. This is something that you are also looking at, the smart management without getting caught in the strategic interest and the strategic play. That is important, but there are many that I've got down in my notebook listening through the 5 speeches today, but we will conclude at that point. So thank you very much. To save time, I will refrain from calling again or addressing the names, but thank you very much, 3 of the panelists here and the 2 generals appearing up on the screen, for your times and the coming up with your thoughts today, sharing it with the gathering, and have a nice day. Thank you very much for your participation and also your questions. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir. That was a very interesting and a lively discussion, and I believe we will all leave this auditorium with much food for thought.
I would like to once again thank the Chairperson, Vice Admiral Perera, the Commander of the Sri Lankan Navy, for gracing the 16th International Research Conference. And I would also like to thank the distinguished speakers of the first plenary for Defense and Strategic Studies for sharing their thoughts on the theme National Security Resilience.
Now, I'd like to invite the Chairperson of the first plenary session for Defense and Strategic Studies, Vice Admiral Perera, the Commander of the Sri Lankan Navy, to give away the certificates to the presenters.
Major General Sujeewa Senarath Yapa, RWP, RSP, NDU, the Commandant of the National Defence College, Sri Lanka.
Lieutenant General Datuk Mardzuki bin Muhamad, Vice Chancellor, National Defence University, Malaysia.
Lieutenant General MD Akbar Hossain, SBP, BSP, SUP and BA, AFWC, PSC, Commandant of the National Defence College, Bangladesh.
We would also like to thank the online presenters, Lieutenant General Sukriti Singh Dahiya, SM, VSM, Commandant, National Defence College, India,
and Major General Muhamad Raza Aizad, Hilal-eImtiaz, Director General, Institute for Strategic Studies, Research Analysis, ISSA, the National Defence University of Pakistan, for sharing their thoughts on the theme.
I'd like to call upon Rear Admiral Dhammika Kumara, the Vice Chancellor of KDU, accompanied by Colonel Pradeep Ratnayaka, Dean, Faculty of Defence and Strategic Studies, to present the token of appreciation to Vice Admiral Priyantha Perera, the Commander of the Sri Lanka Navy, Plenary Chair of Session 1, National Security Resilience.